Good morning, beautiful people of the center. As you heard from our host, Lawrence Edwards, we are continuing this month to explore kindness as a spiritual practice and the power that kindness releases into our world when we practice it. In particular, this morning we're talking about warmth, which the author of this book calls the temperature of happiness. The author I'm talking of is Piero Ferrucci, and he wrote the book, The Power of Kindness, The Unexpected Benefits of Leading a Compassionate Life. And so I'd like to begin this morning by reading a short story from the book that sets the tone for our discussion about warmth. A woman I know, Dorothea, tells me a story. Every evening she hears her neighbor's baby girl crying in the apartment next to her. The parents put the child to sleep alone in the dark. The baby cries for a long time while the parents watch television. The baby's desperate crying expresses all her anguish, her solitude. What should Dorothea do? She's uncertain. Speaking to the parents might make things worse. She decides to sing. Just as she can hear the baby can hear her. Every evening, when they put the baby to bed, Dorothea sings her sweet lullabies, talks to her through the thin walls, consoles and comforts her. The baby hears the invisible, friendly voice, stops crying, and falls peacefully asleep. The warmth of a stranger's voice has saved her from the icy cold of loneliness. Isn't that something? And it reminds me that oftentimes warmth is associated with touch, but there are different ways to touch. We can touch through sound as well. And I'm thinking today of warmth as anything that reaches and connects and therein expresses caring. Whether we do that with our mind or with our words or with our song or with our acts of kindness, with our hands, it's the same energy of caring that we're looking at today. Now, I can't remember exactly where I read this story about a lab experiment that went bad. I think it was in a book by Deepak Chopra, I can't be sure. But it's the story of an experiment in which lab rabbits had pathogens introduced to them, bacteria of some kind. But the experiment went badly in that the rabbits with the bugs in them thrived. In fact, they did, if I remember correctly, better than the control group of bunnies that had nothing injected into them. And so the experimenters decided they would have to look more closely into perhaps the nighttime activities of the rabbits to see what was going on. So as they observed the activity on the closed-circuit TV, they saw that in the middle of the night, the janitor was coming in and taking each bunny out of the cage and holding it and loving it up, which apparently was sufficient to boost up the immune system of the bunnies so that they could outperform the healthy ones. I've never forgotten that. Apparently, we, like bunnies and babies, we need warmth to thrive. Oh, we can survive without it, but it's no way to live. I'm talking about the warmth of touch. Just a handshake, a hug is wonderful, but to have no touch in life is a disaster. Or the psychological warmth that is expressed in something as simple as a smile. You can convey deep, genuine caring through a smile, or an act of service, or by truly seeing someone enough to listen to them, enough to spend time with them, or the warmth that is conveyed through conversation. Now, when it comes to expressing kindness and warmth, it's very much like the practices that go with prosperity and abundance, in that it is a two-way street. There are two sides to it. We can't only be a receiver of prosperity. We've got to get into the game of giving too. And so it goes with warmth and kindness. We can't be all on one side of the scale. There's two sides to it. Because truly, not only the ones receiving warmth benefit, but the ones that give it benefit too. So I have some tips for the practice of expressing warmth to share with you today, including this first one. Don't transmit warmth to get it. In other words, don't be about giving it just to receive it, because that turns it into something else, something like a business transaction. And it has the habit of sabotaging the very something specialness about warmth that has to be freely given. So rather than that, rather transmit warmth because you've discovered that it is your nature to do so. And you really can't live well without being warm. The second tip is this: don't withhold warmth until you receive it, because you could wait forever. And think of warmth withheld from others as warmth that you are truly withholding from yourself. Because in the act of expressing warmth is where you generate in you, a happiness. And then the third tip is this one. Don't compare how you express or experience warmth to how others express or experience warmth. There can't be one size fits all. No, instead, you have to do what the song said. You got to find your own true color and trust it. You have to find your innocent warmth. Look for what genuinely stirs up a warmth of happiness in you and trust it, even if it looks different to everyone else's. In our world today, practicing warmth and kindness is a challenge, because I believe the growing complexity of the world that we are in has put most of us in a situation where we are inundated with information to the point of being overloaded by it. And you know I love technology. And it is still capable of making it possible for people in the midst of all of this information to feel utterly isolated. More so than ever. I love the term social media, in which you do anything but connect. Social media, you know I love it. And it's important, but it can give an illusion of connection that isn't really there. I love the internet, but I don't worship it. I'm no fool. I would rather sit down with one genuine, kind person who likes me to talk than do anything else on this planet. I saw a comic strip a while ago, and it's a funeral scene, and the funeral director is with the one of the remaining friends or family member, and they're standing looking at the open casket, and there are a few people in attendance, and the family member says to the funeral director, "I'm kind of surprised. I expected a better turnout because she had 3,000 Facebook friends." Now, in Twitter and texting, it really has revolutionized communication for us. It's possible now to share short bursts of meaning and make it instantly available, connecting us, allowing us to do things we've never been able to do in history. And all of it stripped of good grammar and spelling and subtleties. Oh, the art of meaningful conversation. Actually, the art of meaningless conversation. It's a beautiful thing to talk about absolutely nothing for an hour. It's wonderful. It means spending time together. That's what conversation means. It means with. Being social means keeping company with. The act of living together. In fact, do you know that there was a time when the word conversation in the 1700s referred also to sex? Yeah. In fact, there was a legal term, criminal conversation. It meant adultery. Isn't that interesting? Well, you have to be present for adultery to take place. You have to be present for any kind of intimacy to take place. Intimacy requires showing up. And being present generates warmth. It just does. And warmth is apparently what we need to flourish and grow. And without warmth, and without the warmth that comes from connection, it becomes easier and easier and easier to be heartless. I'll tell you what I mean. I was reading our local newspaper. It was available online now, which I love. But have you read the comments sections? Oh my word. They're heartless. And as I read them, I thought to myself, I wonder, as I spoke to the person writing the comment in my head, I wonder if you would have the nerve to say that in person. Or is it that somehow sitting behind your screen, separated by an electronic distance, it dehumanizes it sufficiently that you don't care about the person receiving the comment? You see, when I don't know anything about you and you're just a user ID on the other side of a screen, I don't have to care about you. But it is impossible for me to spend any kind of time with you and not begin to care about you. I just have to learn about your first trial. I just have to learn about what cross you are bearing right now. And I'm going to feel the stirring of the warmth of caring. It's inevitable. It will happen. I love email. But I treat it in a very special way. I treat every email as if it is a letter that I'm writing. So friends will know, and I teach this when I teach people about the mindful and conscious way of communicating electronically. I start the email, dear person's name, comma, new line, followed immediately with the question that creates connection. How are you? What's going on in your life? How are your children? Followed forthwith with the business. Period. New paragraph. Salutation. Warm regards. Or whatever. My friends think I'm crazy, spending so much time on an email communication, but they always feel better when they get my emails. Somebody told me they look forward to my business emails. I don't like heartless communication. I don't like it at all. I don't like heartless living. Recently, the center sent out hundreds of thank you cards. I mean, if we had an address for you and you made any kind of contribution, we tried to make sure that you got a thank you card from us. So we sent out hundreds of them, and I got a few people who said to me, Edward, I got that card, and you really don't have to give me a thank you card for my giving. I don't give for that. And I explained, it's a two-way street. It's also for us to practice gratitude so we never fall into heartless receiving, just expect the people to give. No. Dehumanize the source of our good. No. So we practice reaching and connecting with warmth through that thank you card. One person said she got the card, and she said she opened it and she said to herself, oh, great, what do they want now? So she said she found herself looking around in the envelope for the return envelope where she's supposed to put her cash in and send it, and she couldn't find it. She said, oh my goodness, there's no request in this. It's a simple expression of gratitude. And her face brightened up and she said she really felt touched by it, and she went back to look at the whole card from the beginning to end with a new attitude. Personally, I don't want to get into the habit of taking anything for granted in my life. Especially after I read in the book, the author said, warmth is often taken for granted, and then you notice it only when it's gone. So I don't want to get to that. I want to notice and enjoy your warmth every minute and appreciate it. He talks so beautifully about it in the book. He says, however, there are many emotional obstacles to warmth and intimacy. We're afraid that if we come too close or if we are too open, we will be invaded, controlled, or hurt. These are ancient fears, partly irrational and partly legitimate. Partly legitimate because, yes, there is a real possible experience of being hurt or disappointed in this messy business of being an emotional human being. Oh, but to shut down and build walls to keep all of that away is no way to live. He says humorously in the book, yep, we've taken millions of years to evolve into being individuals, so it's no wonder we want to protect it so fiercely. But it's no way to live. He says, with too much intimacy, we are afraid that our borders will cease to exist, that we ourselves will be pulverized. But often these borders become barriers. The membranes ossify, and you love that word, ossify, become as hard as bone. The membranes become as hard as bone and no longer let anything through. We shut ourselves in the cold fortress of our solitude between the cold, dark screen of our computer. Oh, wait, it doesn't say that. Neurophysiologist James Prescott studied 49 cultures. What he was studying in the cultures was the amount of intimacy, physical affection that was lavished on infants in these different cultures to see the difference between cultures where there was a high incidence of physical affection and those in which there was a low incidence of physical affection. In those cultures where lavishing physical affection on infants was very high, it was characteristic for crime, murder, killing, and torturing enemies to be very low. Conversely, in those cultures where lavishing physical affection on infants was very low, there was a tendency for things such as slavery, low status of women, and angry, aggressive images of deity to prevail. The researcher has the opinion that warmth during infancy is one of the best and easiest ways that we can transform our psychology of violence into one of peace. And I think it's not too late, because in my opinion, and in my experience, even adults, even animals, even objects respond very, very well to the warmth of kindness. Immediately. It's the sort of thing you can go out and practice and experiment with immediately. You can start to practice acknowledgement, compliments, recognition, acts of service, listening attentively, and discover for yourself what the power of kindness is. And don't you know, warmth is something that can be practiced privately and silently too. Without ever doing a thing or saying a thing or explaining it to anyone at all. You can practice thinking warmly about people and events and things in your own mind. And after all, according to the teaching of the Center for Spiritual Living, that's where it all starts anyway. Consciousness is your creative power. So might as well start there. Can you practice thinking warmly about people? Oh, what a practice. He also says in the book something very lovely. While in this book we usually speak of benefits awaiting the giver of kindness, here we are talking about benefits for the receiver too. The contradiction is resolved if we ask ourselves, when we stroke a purring cat, who is giving and who is receiving warmth? Or when we enjoy someone's company, who is warmed by the relationship? And when we hold a newborn baby, who gives and who receives the tenderness? If we give warmth, we do not end up feeling cold. The benefit is symmetrical. In giving our warmth, and so too our vital presence, our positive, non-judgmental attitude, our heart, we can bring into the lives of those near us vital, sometimes extraordinary changes. And we too do not remain unchanged. He adds to it a much needed caution, I think, saying that when he says we ought not to feel emptied out by expressing warmth, right? If you feel consistently empty and drained from attempting to express warmth, you might want to consider a different subject or object. And he says we ought not to feel icky as a result of receiving warmth, right? Right? You know what I'm talking about. Like the invasive hugger. Yeah. Like the oversharer. Like the bottomless pit of need. I'm just saying. Because sometimes boundaries are important. You know. And I mention these because sometimes when I experience something that causes me to want to shut down and recoil, I recoil too far. And I make up the idea that the entire world of people will be like that, and so I never risk again. But more realistically, I think that the problem, in my opinion, with this world is not that we are drowning in warmth. It's more likely that there is a much needed experience. There is an absence of it. So this week, my assignment for myself, and I hope you'll join me, is to practice genuine, everyday, garden variety, nice. And to start in my thoughts. See, can I do that? Can I play nice in here? I'm going to see if I can. Because I'm busy telling the whole world creation starts within. I want to see if I can do it. It'll be a wonderful experiment to spend a whole week thinking nice thoughts. Sometimes people say that, the Center for Spiritual Living is just positive thinking. Say, try it. So far, I haven't gone through 1 hour. But I'll tell you a secret. Right now, I'm thinking something very nice about you. And there's nothing you can do about it. I invite you to inhale with me. And sigh, exhaling, as we take our attention inward to acknowledge again the presence of the divine as that creative energy that is everywhere present, that is sustaining, directing our hearts and minds even now. We sense our unity with each other and with it, and through it to all of life everywhere. And in this state of realized unity, there rises up within us an affirmation that re-declares that our truest, most gentle nature is that of loving kindness. Establishing it this way through this prayer, then, it becomes the case that we are in a state of recollection, of remembrance of our true nature. And so it is that we can expect now that everything that follows is a reflection of this awareness, that true loving kindness attends us, goes before us, accompanies us, and we yield to it. In deepest gratitude for this and so much more, I let it be. And so it is.